Chapter 540 The IC, Volume 38 The Merfolk's Blessing. The practice battle was over. Tang Wutong withdrew her golden dragon spear as she spun around and left. Huro Yuao hurriedly chased behind her. What's wrong, Wutong? Tang Wutong said nothing as she strode towards the tent she was resting in. They're at loggerheads now. For what? Does anyone know? Shu Sanchi whispered. Everyone shook their heads blankly, and only Bei Bei thought for a moment as he said, Yuao was deliberately giving Wutong a chance, and I think she found that out. That's the reason why she's upset. Really? Why did I not see that? Jiang Nanan was a little unconvinced. Bei Bei smiled faintly and said, we all know Yuao's abilities. He was giving her a chance from the beginning. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used Spiritual Blast when he was dodging away. He should have used Spiritual Shock. Furthermore, Yuao didn't use his Eye of the Asura from the beginning to the end. He didn't use his Martial Soul True Body. Jiang Nanan asked, didn't Wutong not use her Martial Soul True Body either? Bei Bei shook his head. No, she did. When Wutong was using her abilities related to that purplish gold sun, she was using them with her Martial Soul True Body. Yuao had also used Pride of the Ice and Snow Empresses, but he didn't use his Martial Soul True Body. As for their fight with their weapons in the end, I didn't understand that. But since Wutong is angry, there must clearly be a reason. Yuao lost the fight a little too abruptly, and it didn't seem like he had depleted all his soul power. Everyone understood things a little better as they listened to him. Shu Sanchi chuckled and said, I didn't think she'd be so competitive. Bei Bei continued, she's a title Douluo after all. She mustn't feel very good because a title Douluo didn't defeat a soul Douluo, even if she was fighting against Yuao. She should have given her full strength in that fight. I didn't expect them to have trump cards like that. Huro Yuao had already chased Tang Wutong back into her tent in this moment. What's wrong, Wutong? Talk to me. Don't be angry. Huro Yuao moved next to Tang Wutong with a sheepish smile on his face. Tang Wutong was still pouting. Something in Huro Yuao's eyes shifted as he suddenly used instant teleportation and reappeared right opposite Tang Wutong, facing her, and pressed his lips against hers. Tang Wutong's eyes immediately widened as her pouting red lips were kissed. The mild anger in her heart was like a vent as it dissipated immediately. But in the next moment, a certain someone yelled agonizingly as a powerful beam of golden light blasted him away and sent him hurtling out of the tent, which now had a huge hole in it. The others from the Tang Sect all quivered as they looked on from a distance. Bei Bei, Shu Sanchi, and Hikaito exchanged glances as the same thought surfaced in their heads. It's not such a good thing after all that your wife is so strong. Yuao. Tang Wutong dashed out from her tent as she came beside Huro Yuao, who was lying motionless on the ground. That blast was very fierce and forceful, and even she could feel that Huro Yuao didn't take that hit easily. Huro Yuao groaned as he struggled up from the ground. His body suddenly swayed just as he got to his feet, and he fell into Tang Wutong's arms. Tang Wutong was afraid that her seal would blast him away once more, and she hurriedly supported him with her hands. Are you okay? No, my entire body is hurting. I can't take it anymore. Huro Yuao closed his eyes as he spoke with a pained look on his face. Tang Wutong hurriedly helped him back into her tent. There were thousands of people watching outside. What did they think was happening? Tang Wutong helped him onto the bed once they were back in the tent. She couldn't help but say, you had it coming. Who asked you to kiss me? Huro Yuao chortled. You're too cute when you pout. I couldn't resist, so I had to kiss your lips. Hey, when is my father-in-law going to remove this seal? Tang Wutong grunted and said, I won't agree even if Dad wants to remove my seal with your behavior today. Why? What's wrong with my behavior? Huro Yuao seemed aggrieved. Tang Wutong answered, of course your behavior was bad. You weren't using your full strength from the beginning to the end. Huro Yuao was full of denial. No. I just had a different fighting style. Did you not see me flipping all my trump cards in the end? But look at what's happening. We are the ones who are flipping each other's trump cards. Fortunately, there are no outsiders. Otherwise, we'd be in real trouble. Tang Wutong grunted again. If others don't understand you, how can I not? Your control over your spiritual power means you are entirely capable of switching more intricately between your martial souls, and you shouldn't be so disoriented and messy. Furthermore, how dare you say that you completely depleted your soul power in the end? Huro Yuao said, there was only a little bit left, so I couldn't just faint, could I? You were so full of energy, and since I would lose in the end anyway, it didn't make sense for me to drag it out any longer. Tang Wutong pouted. Nonsense. I had almost expended all my soul power, and it's uncertain who would win in the end if we both expended all our soul power. Furthermore, your spirits can fight independently. Why didn't you use them? And you didn't use your martial soul true body either. I don't need you to give me a chance. Huro Yuao grabbed her around the waist and said, when did you become so competitive? But weren't you holding back too? You didn't use your clear sky hammer from the beginning to the end. Don't tell me that you only have one soul ring for that martial soul, because you have the ability to fuse two martial souls together. The corner of Tang Wutong's mouth curved into a faint smile, but she said, I forgot. Huro Yuao stared at her tender and pretty face that was still fuming as he went up to her ear and whispered, I really want to bite you. Tang Wutong blushed. You're so annoying. Hurry up and cultivate to recover. Aren't we still going to the IC? A bite won't delay us for too long. Come here. Huro Yuao came even closer with an indecent expression on his face. Tang Wutong dodged away. She was alert as she stared at him and said, are you not afraid that my seal will blast you away again? You're not in a very good state right now. Huro Yuao felt a little defeated when he heard those words. The previous hit had been quite heavy, and he could still feel throbbing pains around his body even now. Father-in-law, when will you appear? Please have mercy on me. Huro Yuao fell back onto the bed as he exclaimed up into the sky. Tang Wutong pursed her lips into a smile and said, you should pray harder. My daddy is almost never around. 3 battles have been fought, and Shrek Academy's 3 Soul Engineer legions became more cohesive, while their fighting strength also improved. They crushed their opponents in every victory, and that was very beneficial for their confidence. They had pillaged large amounts of resources, and that covered the 3 legions' daily expenses and consumption. Morale was high and growing, but now, the 4th battle wouldn't happen for a long time. All the soul masters could only remain in the spectral demiplane to cultivate and wait. Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong left his spectral demiplane quietly after resting for an evening. They appeared at the IC's shores. Bone-chilling winds billowed as they came out, and Tang Wutong shivered from the cold. Huro Yuao hurriedly took her into his arms as they flew high into the sky. They had stayed inside his spectral demiplane for a night, and it was already midday on the second day. They gazed in Eastern Sun City's direction from the sky, but couldn't see much. At least, there weren't any traces of reinforcements. Huro Yuao had pocketed all the aerial surveillance soul tools mercilessly after they finished pillaging the city, and stored them inside his spectral demiplane. The entire city immediately became both blind and deaf. They didn't have satellites to pass information on, and they couldn't send word inland within a short period of time for them to send reinforcements. Eastern Sun City was the largest city in the north, and they had to seek aid from large cities inland so that they could find military forces strong enough to support them. The enemy was gone, so the most important matter for them was to send out information while redirecting food to the city. Eastern Sun City's first target was Oak City, which was the previous target of Huro Yuao's team when they sent out their messengers. Oak City was one of the most important food warehouses in the north, but it was a pity that their reply was a negative one. All the food left in Eastern Sun City was only enough to sustain their citizens for a week, and disaster would strike if that was dragged out any longer. Eastern Sun City's rulers were so busy that they were already up to their ears with work. Even though Huro Yuao didn't know what the exact situation was, he could still make a rough guess. He smiled at Tang Wutong and said, I estimate that Eastern Sun City will need a week to transmit any information to Radiant City. I wonder how Shu Tianran will react when he finds out what has happened. Tang Wutong said, hopefully, he will turn his armies around in time. We will have achieved our goal if that happens. Huro Yuao shook his head. It won't be that simple. The Sun Moon Empire has mobilized their armies to start an invasion, and they won't change their strategies so easily just because their back ranks have become a little unstable. Therefore, matters at the front lines won't change unless the danger in their back ranks reaches a certain threshold. Therefore, our mission has barely begun. When the time comes that Shu Tianran feels that the chaos in his back ranks is threatening his rule, then we have a chance of successfully drawing his armies at the front lines back. Tang Wutong said, come, let's go to the IC. Huro Yuao held her little hand, and Howdong power flowed through their bodies as they flew towards the IC. They were in the extreme north, but the ocean surface hadn't completely frozen over. The ocean was vast and there was no end in sight, while there was warm water flowing beneath the cold waves. This resulted in enormous icebergs and glaciers appearing above the ocean's surface, but the ocean wasn't completely frozen over. Even then, the temperature in this place was so low that normal people couldn't survive. Blocks of ice floated along the ocean's icy surface as chilly winds cut to the bone. The winds carried some of the ocean's pungent smells and chills as they whooshed by continuously. Huro Yuao wasn't afraid of the cold at all. Furthermore, his soul power recovered even more quickly in such an environment, like he was a fish in water. Tang Wutong needed to use her soul power to defend herself against the cold, but she was a tidal Douluo after all, and she wasn't called the dragon butterfly Douluo for nothing. This little bit of cold couldn't threaten her. If we were to fight on the icy, Wutong, you would be no match for me. Huro Yuao laughed as he spoke. Tang Wutong sounded a little unconvinced. How do you know if we haven't tried it? If you're unconvinced, we can fight again. No. I don't want to fight with you. If I beat you, my heart hurts. If I lose, my body hurts. This means it doesn't make sense for me to fight at all. How can I fight you? Huro Yuao laughed as he spoke. Tang Wutong hammered him gently, but she was all smiles. The two of them flew inward. They went flying very quickly, and they seemed very relaxed. But Huro Yuao was continuously sweeping the icy for disturbances with his spiritual power. He would even extend his spiritual power into the seawater to investigate. There were many aquatic beings swimming around beneath the icy surface, and there were quite a few aquatic soul beasts. However, they didn't dare to attack Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong once they sensed their formidable auras. The temperature continued to drop as they flew further towards the north, while the number of floating ice blocks continually increased. Enormous icebergs could be seen wherever they went, and there were some especially huge ones that looked like tiny islands. There were some aquatic soul beasts on the icy surface. They glared at Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong, but they didn't dare to come close. Soul beasts were very sensitive, and Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong didn't deliberately mask their auras. Normal soul beasts who had relatively low cultivations didn't dare to think about attacking them. They flew for 15 minutes, and were now very far from land. Huro Yuao summoned the Snow Empress from his spiritual sea. Huro Yuao asked, Snow Empress, how are we going to find the mermaids? The Snow Empress appeared beside Huro Yuao with a flash of white light. She took a deep breath as she came out, and her face was overcome with satisfaction. She was an icy snow lady, so icy environments like this were her favorite. The Snow Empress explained, across history, mermaids have lived deep in the ice sea. You have to continue outward. Don't worry, you won't be in much danger. Typical aquatic soul beasts can't fight against the strength and speed that the two of you possess. But when you meet formidable opponents that you can't defeat, fly up into the sky. Aquatic soul beasts will become increasingly weaker the further they are from the ocean. All aquatic soul beasts are limited by this fact no matter their cultivation. You should call me again after flying for another 2 hours at your current speed, and I will find a way to summon those mermaids for you. All right. Huro Yuao nodded in agreement. The Snow Empress' eyes were full of longing as she glanced at the ice sea around her before she returned to Huro Yuao's body. It wasn't because she didn't want to fly above the ice sea along with Huro Yuao. If she was outside while they were flying at high speeds, she would add to Huro Yuao's burden and energy consumption. Huro Yuao was much more confident after his battle with Tang Wutong yesterday. If he teamed up with her, not even typical transcendent Douluos could defeat them. Even if certain opponents were more powerful, couldn't they run away if they couldn't beat them? Furthermore, they were on the ice sea, where his abilities were greatly amplified. Without talking about anything else, those tough ice blocks were all conductors for his ice explosion. He didn't have to fear anything even if he was faced with large numbers of aquatic soul beasts. He held Tang Wutong's hand as they maintained their high speed at about 1,000 meters above the ocean's surface while they proceeded further out. Huro Yuao was confident, but he wasn't careless. He was using spiritual detection from the beginning to the end so that he could feel everything that was changing around him. Very few soul beasts appeared in the sky above the ice sea. At least, they hadn't discovered any soul beasts throughout their journey. It was clear that this place was like a forbidden zone for flying soul beasts. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. They could no longer sense any kind of land, but more and more icebergs began to appear on the ocean's surface. The entire ocean appeared white as they gazed into the horizon, and it grew increasingly harder to see the water. The temperature in this place was getting closer and closer to the temperature at the extreme North Shore regions. Huro Yuao was holding Tang Wutong's hand, and he continuously used his Ice Empress Jade Scorpion to absorb the chill from her body into his own to dispel it. He could help Tang Wutong conserve some soul power to defend herself against the cold this way. There's nobody else besides us. This tranquility with only ice, snow, and the vast ocean does feel good. Tang Wutong smiled as she spoke to Huro Yuao. Huro Yuao laughed and said, this place is too quiet. It might feel curious and novel for a day or two, but you'll probably get too lonely if you have to stay in this place for too long. Tang Wutong winked and said, do I have that lower tolerance for loneliness? Huro Yuao continued, I'm just talking about normal human conditions. I won't let you be lonely if you're with me. I feel like eating your grilled fish. Tang Wutong laughed as she spoke. Huro Yuao was shocked as he hurriedly placed his index finger to his lips. My love, we are above a large ocean surface. Even though the aquatic soul beasts beneath the ice sea are not all fish-type soul beasts, most of them are related. If we grill fish in a place like this, we're picking a fight with all the soul beasts here. Tang Wutong giggled and said, I'm just joking. Look at how scared you are. Huro Yuao's expression suddenly changed as his smile disappeared. His eyes grew focused as he stared in a certain direction, and he tugged on Tang Wutong as they began to slow down. There was a pair of icy cold eyes staring right at them from an enormous iceberg in the distance. Those were enormous living beings, and there were several hundred of them lying prostrate on an iceberg. Huro Yuao pulled on Tang Wutong because he could feel their intense hostility. What's that? Tang Wutong stared into the distance curiously. Her vision couldn't compare to Huro Yuao's, but she could still feel things in the distance with the help of Huro Yuao's spiritual detection. There were many black soul beasts, and they were all of different sizes. The largest ones were more than a dozen meters long, and emanated faint blue hues. The smallest ones were only a little longer than a meter, and every single one had two sharp tusks protruding from their mouths. Sea devil walruses. There are so many. Huro Yuao frowned a little. Sea devil walruses were a species of aquatic soul beasts that were very characteristic. Soul masters didn't understand much about aquatic soul beasts, but there had been an introduction to aquatic soul beasts back when they were studying in Shrek Academy. The sea devil walrus was a species of soul beast that was considered relatively docile, and their most salient characteristic was their extraordinarily formidable defensive capabilities. A grown sea devil walrus would be more than 7 meters long, and a sea devil walrus was considered an adult when it had more than 100 years of cultivation. Its 7-meter-long frame was very muscular, and its skin was more than 10 centimeters thick. Their skin was extremely tough, and very resistant to all kinds of physical attacks. Sea devil walruses residing in the ice sea were probably also very resistant to ice-type and fire-type attacks. Of course, all soul beasts had their strengths and weaknesses. In comparison to their formidable defenses, they came up short on offense and speed. Sea devil walruses only became a lot faster in the water. They were very slow when they were above water. They only possessed several abilities to control water or ice to attack, and those attacks weren't considered powerful. Sea devil walruses lived in herds, and 10 over walruses formed a herd. Several hundred walruses appearing at the same time was, at least, not mentioned in Shrek Academy's teachings. Huro Yuao made an accurate judgment with just one look. These sea devil walruses have very average cultivation ranks. The strongest ones are 10,000-year soul beasts, and there are 3 of them. The rest have varying cultivations, and there are even some with 10 years. Seems like this place is their natural habitat. Huro Yuao explained this to Tang Wutong as he pulled her onto a new route. Sea devil walruses at this cultivation didn't threaten them at all. Furthermore, they were flying 1,000 meters in the sky. With Huro Yuao's understanding of sea devil walruses, even those with 10,000-year cultivations couldn't attack at a range of more than 1,000 meters. They would just fly over them. From his perspective, this was just a small interlude in their journey across the ice sea. Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong were flying very quickly across the sky, and they were just about to fly over the iceberg that those walruses would group up on. Right at this moment, several leading sea devil walruses took out some strange objects. They looked like large light gold conch shells. 12 walruses took out shells like that, and started blowing them forcefully as deep trumpeting sounds could be heard. Both Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong's expressions changed when they heard those sounds, because they could vividly feel that the air around them had tensed up. The airflow around them seemed to completely vanish in the next moment as they felt their bodies plummet rapidly. Any living being who wished to fly in the sky had to rely on airflow. They had to use their soul power to push against the air currents so that they could fly. When all the airflow and even physical substances had disappeared from the sky, they would be in something like an incredibly clean vacuum. They couldn't leverage anything, so they would plummet from the pull of gravity. Even the Class 9 flying type soul tools behind their backs became useless in such circumstances. Outstretched wings that couldn't rely on any airflow were useless. Falling from 1,000 meters in the sky wasn't funny at all. Even though Huro Yuao didn't know what those walruses had done, he could always keep his cool when faced with danger. Huro Yuao tugged on Tang Wutong's hand as she immediately went behind him and wrapped her hands around his waist, while her dragon wings stretched as wide as they could. Even if there wasn't any airflow in the sky, they would still produce some resistance in the process of dropping down. They could reduce their falling speed as long as they could draw on some air resistance. Golden light erupted from Hua Yuao's eyes. Tang Wutong could vividly feel through Hua Yuao's shared spiritual detection that his spiritual power had locked onto a piece of floating ice on the ocean's surface directly beneath them. Hua Yuao clenched his left fist in the next moment as that piece of floating ice exploded into a million pieces with a loud boom, and tremendous explosive forces carried airwaves and seawater into the sky. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong were already around 300 meters from the ocean's surface with their incredibly high speed. That air resistance pushed upwards as Tang Wutong's wings caught the wind and slowed them down. That air resistance dispelled their speedy plummet before they fell towards the ocean's surface once more. Falling from 300 meters was not a big deal for formidable individuals as powerful as they were. Tang Wutong frowned as her eyes widened into a glare at the herd of sea devil walruses. An intense aura appeared around her as she raised her right hand, and her golden dragon spear appeared in her grasp. It was no wonder that she was angry. They were just flying forward, minding their own business, and had no intention to provoke those walruses at all. Yet, these sea devil walruses had suddenly attacked them, and that attack could have been fatal. If they didn't have a suitable response, falling from such an altitude would undoubtedly be fatal, because there were so many icebergs beneath them. The 12 sea devil walruses who were blowing the golden conch shells were slightly taken aback as they watched the two of them descend peacefully. The leader held into the sky, and several hundred walruses split into two teams to outflank Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong. Cold light flickered in Tang Wutong's eyes as murderousness permeated the air. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong no longer attacked and killed soul beasts ever since they had fused with their spirits. However, they couldn't just sit back and wait to die if soul beasts provoked and attacked them instead. Wait, Wutong. Hua Yuao held Tang Wutong's hand. Tang Wutong glanced at him, and her murderous aura immediately dissipated. Even though she was a little arrogant and stubborn at times, and even though she was competitive when she fought against Hua Yuao, he was always the one making decisions when they were outside. She had to give her man sufficient respect. Hua Yuao stared at the largest sea devil walrus who was in the lead, and he passed a message with his spiritual power. Why are you ambushing us? We harbor no ill intentions. All humans deserve to die. That sea devil walrus only had 10,000 years of cultivation, and it was clear that it didn't have the ability to speak. However, it didn't have any problem conversing through its consciousness. Hua Yuao shared its response with Tang Wutong through spiritual detection. Hua Yuao frowned and replied, "Not all humans deserve to die. We have no ill intentions in our journey into the ice sea. We only wish to look for the mermaids. You have attacked us so rashly. Aren't you afraid of bringing disaster to your tribe?" The largest walrus howled furiously. It waved the golden conch in its front limb strongly as that deep humming sound could be heard once more. "All of you have to die. You dare to come here to find the mermaids. All of you must die for coming into the ice sea." The walrus speech was a little incoherent, but Hua Yuao could clearly sense the intense hostility coming from it. Hua Yuao wasn't here to be enemies with the aquatic soul beasts. On the contrary, he was hoping that he could establish a relationship with the aquatic soul beasts like the one he had with the great Stardo forest. If that was possible, then humans would have many more choices for spirits. More soul masters would then choose spirits, and they wouldn't have to kill soul beasts for soul rings. Therefore, he suppressed the anger in his heart as he lowered his voice and said, "Don't make this mistake. I don't wish to kill or harm your tribesmen." The sea devil walruses had formed a circle around them in this moment, and they were moving toward Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong swiftly. Several walruses flickered with blue light as they blasted ice bullets at Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong. These ice bullets were icy blue, and there were very evident and intense soul power undulations as they zipped across the sky. Those were ice explosion shells. That was one of the sea devil walrus signature soul skills, and also considered their innate talent. Hua Yuao shook his head gently when he realized that persuading them was futile. He increased his spiritual detection's range as he encompassed all the walruses within it. Something that astonished all the walruses happened immediately afterwards. The ice explosion shells that were flying toward Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong froze at the same time, and every single one detonated in the sky as they exploded into countless ice particles in all directions. The tiny particles of ice whooshed through the air, and they actually condensed into snowflakes as they started to dance as a blizzard erupted from within. This blizzard came all too suddenly and too vigorously. The 12 sea devil walruses hadn't even reacted as the blizzard swept their tribesmen into the air. Several hundred walruses danced and spun around in the sky, and they all screamed and hollered in shock and panic. The 12 leading walruses were stunned. They could almost see their tribesmen being mutilated and eviscerated in the blizzard. Their enemy was so powerful. This was something they hadn't expected at all. Tang Wutong turned her head and glanced at Hua Yuao. She could see that his 8th soul ring was glowing. Hua Yuao was using the ice bear's blizzard. He wasn't using his snowy dance of ultimate ice. He chose to use blizzard instead because blizzard was more explosive. However, its temperature wasn't as low as his snowy dance of ultimate ice. The walruses which had surrounded and attacked them were all instantly swept away. Furthermore, the blizzard was starting to move towards the 12 leading walruses. Those 12 walruses were completely taken aback. This was a frightening attack that was entirely like a cosmological phenomenon, and they couldn't even begin to think of resisting it. The walruses began to howl furiously after their momentary shock, and they blasted bullets of ice at Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong again and again. However, these bullets detonated by themselves not long after they were fired, and they couldn't come close to Hua Yuao or Tang Wutong at all. The blizzard had arrived, and every single one of those 12 walruses lost all hope. But in the next moment, they realized to their surprise that the blizzard didn't attack them at all when it arrived. The walruses hadn't even reacted when the blizzard began to settle down, and sea devil walruses drifted down from the sky on snowflakes one after another as they landed stably next to them. Every single walrus was still in fear and panic, but they weren't hurt at all as they landed. There wasn't a single missing walrus when they reappeared next to their leaders as the blizzard completely disappeared, like they hadn't charged out to surround and attack Hua Yuao or Tang Wutong at all. The walrus leaders' expressions changed completely. They all had at least 10,000 years of cultivation, and they already possessed a certain level of intelligence. They could naturally tell how difficult what Hua Yuao had just done was. Controlling a soul skill to such an extent was something that they couldn't even begin to imagine. Even though using a blizzard to sweep all the walruses into the air was also difficult, it could be done with sufficient strength. The blizzard could even kill every single one of those walruses. However, controlling the entire herd to fall from the sky and land back on the ground without being hurt at all wasn't easy. Hua Yuao had to be precise, down to every single walrus. A capacity for control like that far exceeded their imagination. This human is so powerful. The leading walruses put down the golden conch shells in their hands at the same time, and no longer harbored any thoughts to resist Hua Yuao. Their opponent could have annihilated their entire tribe if he wanted to. Hua Yuao pulled Tang Wutong along. They didn't go any closer to the herd, and instead, Hua Yuao passed a message with his consciousness to the largest walrus. "Now do you understand that we harbor no ill intentions? If we were hostile, we could completely annihilate your herd." The walrus leader roared. "The mermaids have issued a prohibition. All humans who enter the ice sea are enemies, and they have to be annihilated. Even if you let us go, there will be other aquatic soul beasts who will deal with you." This was the reply from the leader of the walruses, but he had already put down the golden conch in his hands. Hua Yuao stared at the golden conch curiously and asked, "What is that? Why did it make us fall from the sky? Sacred conch seals the sky." The sea devil walrus didn't hide anything at all. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong exchanged a glance, and they could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. One of the greatest reasons why they were confident of venturing into the ice sea was because they could fly. Most aquatic soul beasts couldn't fly, and even if they could, these soul beasts couldn't compete with Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong in terms of flight speed. That meant they could retreat whenever they wanted to. Sea devil walruses were evidently not considered extremely formidable among aquatic soul beasts, but they were equipped with those sacred conch shells, which could lock down the sky. This meant that aquatic soul beasts had to have grasped and developed many similar methods and measures. They couldn't fight in the sky, but they could force humans or soul beasts flying through the air to drop down. It was no wonder there weren't any flying type soul beasts in the air above this vast ocean space. Perhaps they had all gone extinct in the fight against the aquatic soul beasts. Farewell. Hua Yuao knew that there wasn't much reason to discuss anything with these walruses. However, their previous conflict wasn't entirely meaningless. First, they had discovered that the aquatic soul beasts had some measures to lock down the sky. Secondly, they found out about the mermaids' resentment towards humans. They flew into the sky once more, but were now flying at a conspicuously lower altitude. After all, they would be at a great disadvantage if they fell after those measures that locked down the sky were used. They would be at a greater disadvantage the higher they flew. They maintained an altitude of 500 meters above the ocean's surface. They wouldn't be hurt in any way if they fell from that height. Of course, the closer they were to the ocean's surface, the more trouble they could run into. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.